I think when people get to power, they forget who they are, or they simply get carried away by that power. UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar has done that exactly. So let us look at what happened, or look at what is said that has triggered a massive uproar in Mount Kenya or across the country. So it was on May 19th, a routine UDA party briefing, and then Hassan Omar looked straight into the media personnel and said this to former President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Mount Kenya region at large, as I quote. He said that it is not that we lack knowledge. We have been struggling while you oppress us as we watch. We have no problem with anyone, but you can't always show us arrogance and pride. We also went to school. We are not stupid or lazy. End of quote. Those words right there, that is what started everything, because Omar did not stop there. He then accused the Mount Kenya region and their leaders, particularly Uhuru Kenyatta, of being the architect behind the nationwide fuel strike, the Gen Z protests of 2024, suggesting that the former president was using economic disruption as a political weapon against the Ruto administration, and then defended President Ruto against critics, calling him a one-term president. Omar reached back into history and said, as I quote, that when Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, the second president of Kenya, was in power, they called him a passing cloud. At now, when William Ruto took over, they have started saying that President William Ruto is a one-term president. For a region that had overwhelmingly voted for Ruto and built the Kenya Kwanza coalition from the ground up, those words felt directly like an insult. And the response came fast, loud, and from every different direction. So first of all, let's start with Governor Anne Waiguru was among the first to come out swinging. She accused, censored Omar, and threw a very clear line, as I quote, that I have stood against ethic-based politics when the response or the episodes by some leaders in Mount Kenya. In equal measure, I strongly stand against the Hassan Omar type of ethnic baiting that seeks to isolate the people of Mount Kenya, she stated, end of the quote. Family demanding an apology. Nakuru Governor Susan Kihika, one of Ruto's most visible allies in the Rift Valley, also condemned the remarks by SG, warning against any rhetoric that could inflame ethnic tension across the country. Then came Naivasha MP Jane Kihara, went even further, accusing both Ruto and Omar of deliberately fueling an anti-Kikuyu narrative and pushing ethnic hostility ahead of the 2027 general elections. Then came the former Attorney General Justin Muturi, who spoke on Sunday after a church service in Murang'a County. And in his own words, cuts the deepest of all. As I quote, he said, the remarks made by UDA Secretary General Hassan Omar were unfortunate, inflammatory, and deeply disturbing. An apology alone cannot erase words that have been potentially given to divide Kenyans along ethnic lines, he said, end of quote. Then he went further and, as I quote, the Kikuyu community are not tenants in Kenya. They are citizens of this republic by birth, by right, and by sacrifice, Muturi declared. The condemnation of Hassan Omar remarks didn't stay within Mount Kenya. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka, speaking at ACK St. Stephen Cathedral in Kenol, Murang'a County, demanded that President Ruto personally account for Omar's remarks, describing them as ethnic profiling that risk reigniting dangerous historical community tension ahead of 2027. As I quote, Kalonzo said, "We cannot take anything said lightly by a Secretary General of the ruling political party." End of quote. He stated pointedly. Then came Kano spokesperson Tony Kajoka, joined the chorus on X, describing Omar's comment as gross and offensive. The UDA hawk Hassan Omar delegatory comments against the Kikuyu community are gross, and as proud Kenyan, I join the wholesale condemnation of the idiocracy and dismiss it with the contempt it deserves, he wrote on Twitter. Further, former Mukurweini MP Kabando wa Kabando also weighed in, accusing Omar of betraying Kikuyu leaders who had previously supported him politically and personally, and claimed Omar had been deliberately used to attack the community for a political gain and driven political agenda. So with the pressure now mounting from every single corner, Omar moved on Sunday, May 24, to contain the damage. In a formal statement, he maintained his commitment to a national unity and insisted his remarks had been deeply misunderstood. As I quote, "Throughout my public life, I have remained firmly committed to upholding the dignity, rights, and the unity of all Kenyans." The remarks in question were made within the context of my long-standing advocacy on historical land injustice affecting the coastal region, and were never intended to promote division or animosity among communities. End of quote. He then acknowledged that people from central Kenya may have felt aggrieved, and added that nevertheless, in full appreciation that some of other brothers and sisters, particularly from Mount Kenya, central Kenya region, may have felt aggrieved by my remarks. To all those who may have been offended, I sincerely regret the misunderstanding and extend my apologies. That is what Hassan Omar said